Hello there and welcome to the Star Wars Showcase YouTube channel, where today we are looking to continue our 10-year look back series with a look at the modern day and our new Black Series plastic-free packages, or PFP. Now, our video today is going to be a little bit of a change of pace. As we looked at the orange, blue, and red lines, as well as the new Black Series Galaxy packaging, we were talking the good, the bad, and some of the ugly trends that kind of dominated those time periods. But when we're looking at plastic-free packaging, this is still a very new change, less than a year. And so to try to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly there, I think is really to mostly speculate and then become redundant after a few minutes. And so this time around, we're going to talk a little bit more about the controversy kind of surrounding this change from this plastic-dominated packaging to the new PFP, and talk about some of the different points that people are arguing on both sides. As one kind of caveat or kind of foundational point, I do want to point out that for our new releases, we're getting top-notch figures in my mind. We're seeing, great improvements when it comes to our butterfly joints and articulation. We're starting to get more, deep-cut characters, old school Knights of the Old Republic. Photoreal technology is still in place on all of our new releases. And so I think when we're talking plastic-free packaging, it's important to first note that our figures, at least for our new mainline releases, are still very high quality. So the arguments in place here are more just about the packaging. So let's start off with some basics here. What is plastic-free packaging? I've got some different images pulled up on our screen of some of these new PFP releases. And the idea and justification for this new transition to packages that don't contain any plastic was one that was cited as being an environmental decision. The idea being that by removing plastic from this packaging, we're doing a positive thing for the environment. Now, I've seen some online who have said, well, these action figures are made out of plastic, so why does it matter if there's plastic or not in the packaging? And I think the answer really lies with the way that Hasbro kind of views that packaging, and the way the majority of collectors do, is that packaging is something that you open up and that you then throw away. And so the idea being that if I'm only going to take this plastic and immediately put it in the trash can, then that's obviously just directly contributing to plastic waste. And I think furthermore, if you think about this as, we've got an action figure and it's in a plastic box, let's say if we got rid of that plastic box, then maybe we're cutting out 10% of the total plastic associated with this product as a whole, figure and packaging included. And so if you're able to say as a company, well, here's a 10% reduction in all the plastic that we use, even though our core product is made out of plastic, that's still very much a positive thing. I've worked as an operations analyst in previous jobs, and when we were looking to make improvements to different processes or efficiencies, if you're able to shave off just a couple of percent here and there, when you have huge, multinational companies, the savings can be in the hundreds of thousands or even the millions of dollars. And so this is a big impact. If there's a big company who's saying we're reducing this by 10%, that is going to have an effect on things. However, if I had to make a guess, I would assume that Hasbro did not make this decision for altruistic or, environmental purposes, at least wholly. If I had to guess here, this is going to be either a cost-saving measure or a decision that earns them some form of tax break. When it comes to our large, our large international corporations, they're not making decisions for altruism. They're not making decisions because it's the right thing to do. 99 times out of 100, that decision is being made because it's going to positively affect the bottom line. Now again, this is all guesswork on my part, but I do think it's something important for us to consider, that when we're making a transition one way or another, there's always going to be an economic factor behind it. Hasbro isn't here to provide the best customer experience. They're not here to make the best possible product. The reason they exist is to make money. And those other points, great customer service and great products, those are secondary in as much as they contribute to how much money the company is able to make. Now let's transition here before I go too much on an anti-capitalist rant, and talk a little bit more about what really is plastic-free packaging. Now on the left here, I've got our Galaxy line packaging, and we've got our Boss Republic Commando here. And on the right, we've got our new plastic-free packaging with our Scorch Republic Commando. Now, as you can see here, the shape of the boxes, the mural art on the side, the general feel of this, all very much the same. The one key difference being is that we don't have that plastic shell that the figure sits in, as well as the plastic cover that goes over the top of it. Instead, we've got basically just a cardboard box that then opens up. And inside that box, the figure is housed in a little bit of this kind of waxy or crinkly paper, and there's no plastic involved in any way there. So, like I mentioned at the top of the video, the figure is going to be exactly the same. There's no more or less accessories associated here. It's merely with the presentation of the packaging here that we've seen differences made. So, the question I think we need to consider next is, what do people like about this, and what do people not like about it? Now, I think the people who are most unhappy with this transition are our MIB, or Mint In-Box collectors. And these are the folks who buy this action figure and do not take it out of the box. The idea being it is very much a display piece, or I am working to preserve it in really nice mint condition for the purpose of reselling it for a profit at a later date. And mint in-box collecting, I think, really comes about where you have your original Kenner releases of these action figures in the 1970s, and for the rare cases in which people had those original packages, took fantastic care of them, kept them in great shape, and as Star Wars exploded, took the world by storm, those figures heralding all the way back to the 70s, and that are kept in great condition, now command a huge price. So you can sell, your original 1978 vintage Darth Vader for thousands of dollars. And so I think that trend has continued to carry on to the modern day. There's many people who are collecting from that kind of perspective of, let me preserve this, let me see if there's an opportunity for, increased value over time. Or similarly, let me preserve this because the display piece is going to be the box, that the packaging is very much part of this, not just the individual figure. And so it's understandable to see if there are collectors who are of that mindset when you then say, here's this new plastic-free box, but you can't actually see the figure, then, what's the difference between having a cardboard box full of rocks and a cardboard box that has that figure inside? And in the mind of those mint in-box collectors, I don't think there is much of a difference there. So for those folks, this kind of transition has really, I think, sapped the collecting experience of a lot of the fun, as we're not able to see the figure anymore. And to be honest, there's a part of you that doesn't even know if it's there, if someone could have swapped it out, or if, again, it's just a box full of rocks. Now, just based off, my own experience and being on Instagram and on the Black Series subreddit and talking with other collectors, mint in-box collectors make up, I think, a minority of those who are buying up Black Series products. But at the same time, those folks are very unhappy because I think the real crux, the reasoning of their collecting, it has now kind of gone out the window. I think one of the other big points that people who do not like plastic-free packaging are making right now is that we are continuing to see price increases despite the fact that this change to plastic-free packaging is likely a cost-saving measure. So the idea is that production costs are getting lower, and yet the price to buy these figures is still increasing. Now, again, if you're a large corporation who is able to lower their production costs while at the same time increasing, the profit associated with each individual unit, that's like double thumbs up, high fives all around. But for a consumer, when you're able to note, hey, they're saving money on this, but passing increased costs over to me, then I think you're much more likely to say, well, I'm not getting the same value out of this. So I think there's two strong points being made by those who are not happy with plastic-free packaging there. On top of a point that I kind of alluded to, which is if I'm buying these figures in store or if I'm ordering them online from a retailer, I don't actually know if I'm getting the product that's being promised to me. Because again, someone could ship a bunch of rocks or something with a similar weight, and I wouldn't know until I've ripped that product open. And then I have to initiate, a time-consuming or just cumbersome return process and try to get my money back. And so I used to be able to go into Target, I'd see the figure in the plastic window there, and I know, okay, I'm getting my Grief Karga or my Mandalorian figure. But now you're kind of rolling the dice, because I can't break that package open in the middle of, the aisle, unless I'm a complete monster. So I gotta buy that, I gotta take it home, or I gotta get out to my car, double check, and oh shoot, some other monster has opened things up and either stolen the figure or swapped things out. So shoot, I'm out of luck here, and now I got to go through all those burdensome steps to get my money back, and then on top of that, to maybe even try to still track down that figure that I want to get. So this transition here is taking away a lot of the nostalgia. It is taking away the experience for your MIB collectors. We're still seeing price increases despite cost savings in terms of production. And at the end of the day, there's not even a guarantee that the product that you want is going to be in that box. So with all of that said, it seems like there are a lot of things stacked against this transition to plastic-free packaging. But I think it would be unfair if we didn't note a couple of things on the other side as well. Now, for me personally, my buying experience has transitioned to pretty much a completely online or pre-order based one. So I'm very rarely hunting around at different stores trying to find different action figures. As soon as they're announced and released online, I usually place a pre-order and then it arrives on my doorstep 6 to 8 months from then. And so I think some of the arguments of you don't know what you're getting in that box don't really change for me one way or another, because I didn't know what I was getting when I was ordering online either. Now, there still might be the case where I need to initiate a return, or if I feel like, the quality of a figure, the paint apps are off and I want to get a refund for that. That all still exists completely the same for me, whether or not there's a plastic window on that box or not. I think on the other side as well, we do need to look at the, primarily cited environmental concern is that for the majority of our Black Series collectors who are ripping open those boxes, pulling out the figure, they're playing with it, they're displaying it, they're doing photography, that box and all the associated waste there is just getting thrown in the trash. And so for the majority of your collectors out there, this is having a positive environmental impact. We're not seeing all of that wasted plastic packaging go into the landfill. And I know that only represents a certain subset of the larger collector group as a whole, but when the majority is doing things that way, you are going to see, a majority of the benefits therefore realized. So I thought it was important to represent those 2 points. I know many people are unhappy about this transition. I, for the most part, am pretty largely ambivalent about it. My collecting experience hasn't really changed, and to be honest, I've been dialing back my collecting, not as a result of plastic-free packaging, but just because, I'm trying to buy a home and I'm saving lots of money, and that's a completely different external factor. But I think kind of represented here are some of the different points on either side, some of the kind of the different grievances that people have, and I think really some of the realities for most of the collectors that who, may be impacted or who as part of this transition are largely unaffected. So with all of that said, let me know your thoughts on this issue. I'm really interested to see, as plastic-free packaging has now been here for 5-6 months now, as we're getting more and more new releases that are just going to be in that plastic-free packaging. Let me know what you think of this transition. Am I representing the points here? Do you agree with this? Do you disagree? Is this causing you to increase or decrease the amount of figures that you're buying? Let me know in the comments below, as I'd love to start a conversation there, and if the conversation continues to progress, maybe even do a follow-up with some of the additional points that are brought up there. So anyways, I appreciate you listening through to the end of this video. Please like and subscribe here. This helps this channel grow. This is very much a passion project for me, and I'd love to continue to see the things expand out to more and more people. So that all said, thank you again for watching, and keep your eye out over the next couple of weeks as we'll still take some time to look at our Black Series Deluxe releases, as well as a little bit of some speculation on what might we... as well as a little bit of speculation on what we might see for the future of the line. So stay tuned for all of that.